Hello, people. Good to be back. We haven't done a show in a week, but we've been dropping a lot of stuff. Danny, how you doing today?
Goodly.
Okay. So we're going to, there's quite a few people here, so I'm just going to read off some names right here and let some people get in there before we start our main show. Let's see. Philip Spade, how you doing? Peter Pasta, Kevin Detritz, okay. Of course, NB is here. Thanks, NB. Gravesend. Let's see who else. These Guns, 1012, Old Blue Eyes, Gianni Catalano, Sean Smith. Nice, easy name to say, Danny. Sean Smith. Romano Britons, James Williams, Josh Lyles, Autumn Fragrance, Combalar, 2112. Toxic Masculinity. How you doing, my man? DP. Listen, whenever you want to, if you need to tell me that I did something wrong, all you got to do is say, "Hey, Lee, you misspelled the name." Don't stand there and insult me and tell me. That's why I get that attitude with you, DP. You know what you would do is say, "Hey, Lee, you made a mistake," and I would correct it. But instead, you got to be a wise ass about it. Okay, let's see. Sean, how you doing, Sean? Aaron Sator. Fred Bowers, how you doing? Aldo Vanucci. Okay, let's see, Sean. I'm trying to catch up here, people. Elliot, Scorned Washwoman, JC. Scott Bell, Bill Jordan, how you guys both doing? Down Neck, Newark Bronco. How you doing, Nicholas? I'm not going to even try to pronounce your last name, Nicholas. You're going to be mad at me. Chris Steffel. Tommy Stiggs, welcome, my man. Karen Ashley. Teresa Murphy, how you doing? Okay, let's see. Finn Creek, Red Rider, BB Gun. I get to the point where I got to stop because people just keep coming in. Tricky Ricky. Carol Mahal, thank you for showing up, Carol. I appreciate it. Okay, and that's it. Let's get back to what we're going to talk about. I want to talk about a couple things. Danny, everything okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay. First of all, I want to talk about, so I was hospitalized this week because of my blood pressure. And let me tell you something, people. I feel night and day today. Don't abuse your blood pressure, man. I'll tell you what, I felt like death. I went to the hospital. My blood pressure was 200 over 110. Today, it's 137 over 70. They cut me off of medicine, so basically they didn't replace it, and my blood pressure went up. It's a scary, scary feeling, especially when you lose your blood pressure like that. Danny, do you have any blood pressure problems?
Yeah, I'm on medication for blood pressure.
Does yours go up even when you take the medicine sometimes?
Yeah, sometimes. It depends.
Teresa Murphy, 1999. Thank you. I like to tell people.
Thank you,
also,
Teresa.
And also, the Cash App is up, and they'll put it up during the show. And if you want to donate, please donate. I don't do as many shows. And if I'm not doing shows, people, if you watch the shows, please watch the whole commercial because what we're trying to do is build up a real channel here, not do a bunch of lives and beg for money. I'd rather earn it the right way, which is through commercials and building up the show and getting more and more subs and getting a busier and busier show. Okay. Okay, let's see. Danny, do you have anything you want to say before we start the show?
No, I would suggest to everybody out there, if you don't like rats, please donate $1 to Lee's fund for putting this stuff together. It's important that he gets compensated for the good content that he puts out. And again, it's not mandatory. If you can, please do it. But again, if you hate rats, please donate $1.
Okay. And today we're going to talk about, Danny, are you going to leave your face on? Are you going to leave that up? It's up to you, Danny.
No, I'll go back and forth.
Okay. I mean, somebody was just insulting us. I figured maybe you want to put up his face. But we're
Yeah,
not
well,
gonna,
that's why I put it up. That's why I
yeah.
put it up.
Well, the rat thing fits him perfectly. You know, he's a big tough guy. He
Absolutely.
likes to talk tough.
Yeah.
Okay, but we'll let him talk tough. Let him be a tough guy. Okay. 149 from David Cameron. You know what, David? I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Okay, and
Thanks, David.
I just got I haven't checked yet. I just got a Cash App. Whoever sent that, I'll read it in a little bit. Okay, so today we're gonna talk about a couple guys, and Danny, when I was researching these guys, I was shocked about how vicious these guys are, the Gemini Twins. So give us your basic knowledge before we start going over the Gemini Twins.
Well, they were brought up together in Canarsie, and I think they were born in the same year. I think they're
1955. They were both born.
Yeah, and they came up in the life. He had an uncle that was a rotten. Anthony Senter had an uncle that was a knockaround guy by the name of Robert. I think his father was also involved, they gravitated towards that life, and they were both tough kids from Canarsie, and they got involved in a lot of crazy things at the age of 12 and 13 years old, believe it or not.
Yeah, they started young, and just to give you an idea, I'm going to try to put up some pictures of them right now, guys. They were always together. That's the one thing about them. That's why they call them a twin. They said if you've seen one, you've seen the other. Very rarely were they apart. And so they basically met through Chris Rosenberg. Is that correct?
Yeah, in the 70s, I believe it was, yes.
Okay, and Rosenberg, as people know, he was part of the crew. He worked, when he was 16 years old, he was stealing cars for Roy DeMeo. And I don't have to tell anybody who Roy DeMeo was. DeMeo, we'll give you the general, explain who Roy DeMeo was, Danny, please. Danny?
I'm sorry, say it again.
Explain who Roy DeMeo was.
Well, Roy DeMeo, before he even became involved in the Gambino crime family or the DeMeo Crew, he was a butcher. That's where he honed his skills on when he became a psychopathic killer. He used to.
Well, he basically taught the Gemini Twins how to cut up a body, didn't he?
Absolutely, 100%.
How to dissect it, how to cut it and they pretty much learned a trade from him. And Rosenberg. Now, what they did is, and this is Chris Rosenberg right here. Now, when they killed somebody in the bar, somebody would walk in, and one of the Senter twins or Roy DeMeo would shoot them in the head, put a plastic bag around their head or a towel to stop the blood, and then Rosenberg would stab them in the heart, and he would stab them in the heart so the blood would stop pumping. Pretty vicious way to kill, ain't it, Danny? Danny?
Correct. Go ahead.
Okay. So we're going to go over some of the first victims that the brothers killed. Okay. The first guy they killed was Andre Katz. I'm sorry. Explain the killing of Andre Katz, please, if you don't mind, Danny. Danny's gone. He's having trouble with. Okay. Andre Katz. This is Andre Katz right here. Andre Katz, when he was 23 years old, was murdered. And it was because Roy DeMeo wanted part of his business. He had a car dealership and he also stole cars. And so basically what they did is the twins went over there and they killed him. And they didn't know, they found his body a few days later, sawed apart. He was 23 years old. He had the business with his father. And they never found out who killed him. Until later, until the informants came out. And as you guys know, that's the way a lot of this ended up, with informants coming out and finding people. Okay. And basically an informants would tell who killed. And these deaths would always be solved, but they'd be solved years later. And here's some of the victims of the twins. Danny Grillo, Edward Grillo. Edward Grillo was a part of the DeMeo Crew. And they killed him because he started getting high, and Roy DeMeo thought his drug addiction was out of control. He was doing heroin and everything, so he decided to kill him. Then you had Chris Rosenberg, who was part of the crew. Chris Rosenberg, he bought the family, he bought the brothers into meet Roy DeMeo, and eventually Chris Rosenberg, he shot 3 dealers and killed them from, I believe it was Cuba or Colombia, and they didn't want to start a war, so they had to kill him. So they went out and they killed him. They shot him in the head, and they killed the man. And he was one of the few people they didn't cut up. What they did is they didn't want to cut him up because Roy DeMeo considered him like a son. So they put him in a car. They shot the car full of bullets. They put it in an intersection and let him find him there. Let's see right here. Let me pull up some of these and see before I fall too far behind. We'll wait for Danny to get back. Red Rider gun, $2. Appreciate it, Red Rider. Thank you very much. Scott Bell, $4.99. Sent you an email trying to get you to laugh while you were out, but glad you're good, bro. Glad you're back and healthy. Scott, I appreciate it. I got your emails. Thank you very much. Danny.
Sorry about that.
No problem. Okay, so I wanted to go over, there was also a murder, Danny, that you were talking about that they think that the brothers were involved in. And I'm going to pull this up and you can tell me what you think about this. So I basically went over the main murders they did, but there were also 2 other murders. And I'm going to pull this up right here, Danny. John Quinn was found.
John Quinn was part of the DeMeo Crew. He was under a guy by the name of Artie Todd. Artie Todd Tortorella was a Gambino soldier who was involved. He was also involved in the auto theft ring. And John Quinn got arrested, and they feel like he was going to turn rat, and they killed him. Also, they killed a girlfriend of his by the name of Sherry Golden. And Sherry Golden, I believe, was killed in Garrettson Beach, a part of Brooklyn. And, they killed her for collateral damage, per se. They were afraid she knew something as well. So they were both murdered. And it was believed that the Gemini twins were behind the murder. And I believe they were murdered in 1977.
Yeah, and no one ever got charged with that murder. Is that right?
Not to my knowledge, no.
So, okay. And they came between, so first they killed Andre Katz, who we talked about, and they cut up his body, but they found his body. Then they killed John Quinn. Then they killed Sherry Golden. And then they killed another member of their crew, Edward Grillo.
Danny Grillo, correct.
Danny Grillo. And then, as I mentioned, they wind up killing Rosenberg, who was very close to them. Now, when they killed Rosenberg, Roy DeMeo really didn't want to kill him, did he?
Well, he couldn't go through with it, and obviously Gemini Twins completed the murder, but Roy DeMeo was frozen. That's what was reported, that he couldn't finish him off.
Right. And so explain to me who Harry Borelli was.
Well, he was, he was like a third Gemini twin. That's what they considered him. He was also a stone cold killer, and I believe he's doing life right now.
And they called him like the third twin, even though that equals triplets, because he was with them a lot.
Right.
But the weird thing is, all 3 of them are in prison now, Danny.
Correct.
And they're all in prison for life. They're all still alive. And they all got arrested about the same time.
Yeah, I believe 88 or 89, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and that whole crew basically got dismantled. I mean, here's a surveillance picture of Anthony Senter when the FBI was about to come down and arrest them and arrest him. And then they wind up getting charged with several murders.
Correct.
Did they get charged with the DeMeo murder, or was that not part of it?
I don't believe they did.
Okay. Okay. Let me pull some up here, people. Okay, so after they killed them, so basically they wanted Roy DeMeo dead. Nobody wanted to take the job. Nobody can get near them. So who reached out to them to kill Roy DeMeo?
I'm not sure who reached out. I believe John Gotti had something to do with it. That's what I read. I'm not sure, but I do know that they were definitely involved in the murder of Roy DeMeo.
And when they found DeMeo, they say Gadji, was that his name? Nino Gadji?
Ganji or Gadji. Yeah, Gadji.
He was involved with shooting him, but also there was a bullet behind each ear, which was a calling card for the twins.
Right.
And they found him in the back of his trunk 8 days after he was shot. And there was a chandelier on top of him, but they found him 8 days after he was shot.
Yeah.
So after they shoot him, the family breaks up. That group breaks up. Those guys break up, and they go to the Lucchese's. And so who do the Gemini twins go under when they go to the Lucchese's? Isn't it?
Well, obviously they were under Casso.
Right. And then they got involved in another killing with Casso. You want to talk about that? It was done in Brighton Beach, and it was involved with the Russian mafia.
It was a Russian guy. I believe he hung out. I forget the name of the club. He hung out in Brighton Beach Avenue by the Lowe's Theater. But this Russian individual reached out to Casso, and there was a meeting set up. His
name was Marat Balagula.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, and I forget the name of the place. Odessa. It might have been called Odessa.
Yeah.
That I think it was his club, if I'm not mistaken. And anyway, he met Casso there, and they talked about what was going to be done. And obviously, the murder was taking place. It took place, I believe, in Odessa, in the nightclub.
And it was his name was Vladimir Reznikov.
The Russian guy, mafia guy.
And this was a big thing when Casso killed this, because Casso sent a message to the Russian mafia: "We're still in charge."
Oh, no question about it. Casso was a Fruit Loop. Everybody knows that. And he didn't give a fuck who you were. And proof is right here, is what he did to this Russian guy. And there was no retaliation. Nothing happened. And
Reznikov was told to come to the club. And when he came to the club, Senter came behind him and put 4 or 5 bullets in the back of his head.
Right. And you got to understand, these guys had no boundaries. They didn't believe that they were touchable. And they did whatever they wanted to do, and they got away with it. And that basically goes to Roy DeMeo, because Roy DeMeo was completely a psychopath. He was feared immensely by other gangsters. And I'm just going to throw this out there, whether it means anything to anybody. And I'm not saying John Gotti was afraid of him, but John Gotti definitely respected him, because he was a lunatic. He was a bona fide lunatic.
I guess he was definitely what you call a psychopath. Would you put him in the same line as Casso when it came to being a lunatic?
Oh, Tommy Patera, absolutely. All them guys. They were on the same line.
Now that whole crew, once the boss got shot, DeMeo, they basically broke that whole crew up right away. Is that?
Yeah, it was dismantled. It was completely dismantled.
Now, do you think the Gambinos were glad to get rid of the Gemini twins at that point?
Do I think they were glad? Again, there was no boundaries with them. So I think the Gambino family was happy in that sense, because they were essentially wild and carefree. And they brought a lot of attention to the Gambino crime family.
And what makes these guys a rarity is they almost lasted 20 years on the streets as violent killers. And then they finally got indicted. and it was right after the murder with the Russian guy. They didn't get that wasn't one of the charges, but that's when they got indicted, and they gave them 2 trials, Danny, because there were so many charges.
Correct.
And the first trial that they gave them was based on just the simple charges, and the second trial was on all the murders, and they both were found guilty, and they both were sentenced to prison for life, and that's where they are now. But do you find it, like, the fact that these guys were murdering the way they were, that they lasted literally 20 years on the street?
Yeah, I do. I'm not really surprised, but I am surprised. You got to understand, when you have a crew like that is so devastating and completely off the fucking realm of normalcy, these guys were feared all over the place. Even the Westies, believe it or not. There's some FBI tapes about Coonan talking about them. They were definitely a crazy bunch, and people would not turn on them because of the bodies that they turned over. Just listen to this. They would cut a body up in a tub, hang it, bleed it, let all the blood get out of the body, okay? Go downstairs, eat a bowl of linguine and clam sauce, go back up, hatchet, cut, and saw the body up, put it in black bags, and disperse the body to a car and get rid of the body. Now, I don't know about you guys, if anybody's ever seen a dead body, touched a dead body. Just that alone is creepy as fuck. Can you imagine getting to a tub naked with a guy, cutting him up? I don't know.
And they said DeMeo used to get naked and get in the tub with them and cut them up.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. He would get naked and he would cut them up after they were bled, cut them up and disperse their bodies. Put them in bags and get rid of them. So the guy was a Fruit Loop. I mean, what normal guy, would do that? Even if you're a killer, you want to shoot him in the head and leave him there. This guy likes cutting them up and touching them. And I don't know what that goes to as his psyche, but he's definitely a Fruit Loop, or was a Fruit Loop.
And it was Rudolph Giuliani that actually put the cases on them. And what the judge that sentenced them literally said that these 2 guys were part of the most ruthless gang that they ever seen.
Oh, no question about it. And you know what? This is only what we know, and I'm sure there's a lot of other stories that the street guys know of, that they're privy to. This is only what we know of. These guys were total killers, and they would kill just as well as you and I go out and eat a slice of pizza. Well,
that's what they were talking during the trial. They were talking about one of the murders they committed, and they left the body in the tub. And the Gemini Twins, they went out and got a pizza, bought it back. They sat down in the bar, they ate the pizza, and they were joking about the dead body in the tub.
Yeah, it's insane. I mean, insane in the fact that they can actually converse over eating, pizza or macaroni. Meanwhile, they got a guy hanging upstairs bleeding out, and they're ready to cut him up.
And they really have no idea about how many people were murdered there.
No.
Because there were some innocent people murdered there. There were people that came looking for loved ones, and they would kill them. Correct. There was a father and son that came looking for their brother who was murdered, and they killed the father and son who weren't even connected with the mob.
Well, listen, Roy DeMeo was, and I keep saying it over and over again, the guy was nuts, completely nuts. Same with a lot of other guys that are in this life that were stone cold killers. They got more than a couple of screws loose. These guys were just, completely off the fucking chain, And, that's why the mob kept them around as long as they did, because they were efficient and they didn't care what they did. They didn't worry about getting caught.
And when we hear about rats, people, and we talk about rats all the time, these guys had opportunities to rat. They went on trial, they got sentenced, and to this day, they're in the cells. And a matter of fact, it was Convict Inc. who said that he had trouble with one of them, right?
Yeah, with Testa.
Yeah, he said he had trouble with Testa in prison. And when you hear about how Testa was considered the more violent of the 2, is that correct?
Correct. But let me just let me just put this out there. I don't know if anybody's been in prison for any length of time. Prison does something to you, and not in a good way. But if you know, a lot of guys go in there as tough guys and killers, and I'm not saying anything derogatory about Testa, but prison has a way of doing certain things to people. I don't know anything about Testa as far as him being in prison, other than what I've heard from Convict Inc. But I can tell you this, you know, the guy was definitely a tough guy, definitely a killer. I've heard rumors what he was in prison, which I don't necessarily agree with. But the guy was a bona fide killer. And I'm not saying that over time, you know, his demeanor and his attitude hasn't changed, but I still see him as a threat. And if anybody went up to him, I'm sure he could take care of himself.
You got to have something inside of you to be willing to cut a body up like that and kill somebody so easy. And that's what they did. They killed people very
No
easily.
doubt.
We sit here and we've just listed 5-6 people they murdered, but can you imagine how many more were actually murdered by these two?
Well, that's what I mean. You know, there's a lot more stories that are not provable, but I believe happened. And you know, these guys. Listen, both of them almost died. One of them got stabbed in a lung, almost dropped dead. Testa went looking for the guy, almost killed him, and vice versa. So these guys, listen, no question about what they were and what they did, and they had no problem killing somebody. None. They didn't give a fuck who you are.
And Scott H says the twins killed the Russian gangster, putting the muscle on his guy, a rich Russian businessman who belonged to the gas pipe. Yes, and just so you do know, Michael Francis talks about how he invented the gas tax, but it was this this guy that went to Katz that was involved with it big time, and actually he started it before Francis even got involved. But that's something that Francis leaves out, of course, right?
Absolutely. He didn't start it. He was muscle. He came in on it, and that was it. You know, he didn't discover it. He didn't, make it up. He had nothing to do with it other than being muscle.
And here's a great thing right here. Baz, no DNA back then. You hit it right on the button. There was no DNA back then. I mean,
that's right.
The murders that they did back then could easily be solved now.
Oh, absolutely. Sure.
I mean, first of all, you got cameras everywhere. You see people go into these bars, they would disappear. But back then, they had none of this stuff. They didn't even.
You didn't have people that were going to open their mouths like you do today.
Now, when the twins went on trial, there were people that testified against them too, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was a few that testified. Correct.
Was Arena involved in that?
Yeah, the fat guy. Yeah. He was involved in that. There was a couple of others as well.
Yeah, he gave evidence against Anthony Senter and Joey Testa.
Yeah, well, he was part of that crew as well.
Right, and he basically broke down a lot of the murders, how they happened, and they solved a lot of murders because of these rats coming forward.
Absolutely.
Okay, we got make the most of it. Hey, Lee, Danny, hope you have a good show. Cheers as always, Mike UK. Thanks you, Mike. Appreciate that.
Let me touch on something a little bit. If you want to read that, you can go ahead.
Okay, you need to learn the stories. That's not why they left Rosenberg's body. Okay, well, you know something? Here's what you do, Jeff Tilley. Get a channel and tell us why they left the body. Yeah. Nobody knows why they left the body. They left the body because they wanted to show he was dead because he killed 3 dealers.
Yeah, they left him in a BMW and Floyd Bennett Park. Take a walk, Tilly. Go get the fuck out of here. Do yourself a favor. Listen, okay. Robert Senter was the uncle of Anthony Senter. He was involved in the Manny Gambino murder, and he owed Manny Gambino $80,000. He was sentenced 15 for life. So there's a lot of misconceptions about who killed Manny Gambino. It was also spoken about that the Irish guy from Staten Island killed him. He didn't. It was Senter. Senter got out of prison. Nobody ever hit him. Nobody ever killed him. I believe he's dead now, but he lived well into his 70s or early 80s. But anyway, I just wanted to add that tidbit. So Senter's family was definitely involved for a very long time.
Yeah, and just so we could talk about Rosenberg real quick. Yeah, they had to show that he was dead. We do realize that, but what I'm trying to tell you is that they did not want to cut him up either, because he was like a son to DeMeo, and he was like a brother to the twins. They didn't want to cut him up. To make it public, yes, exactly. Lee Chris was calling himself DeMeo, not. Yes, that's true too. That's why Scott, very good point. And this is why DeMeo had got in trouble. Chris was going around giving the name not Rosenberg, but introducing himself as DeMeo. I mean, that put a lot of trouble out there, especially after he killed the drug dealers. When he went to meet the drug dealers, he actually used the DeMeo name. And see, people, we just explained it. Claudio, don't block anybody, please. Anybody's allowed to say what they want, and there's a lot of people here that aren't always going to agree as long as they're respectful. Please don't block anybody. 284 in the house right now. Danny, hope you are well. Lee, thank you. We're doing very well. Danny, how are you doing? Are you doing well?
Good, I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. What's up, Down Neck? How you doing, pal?
Do you believe this, that they were killing people, random people, to stay sharp?
Anything is possible. They love to kill. I mean, and it's been documented. There's FBI conversations, and also from the prosecutor's attorney's office. They loved it. According to these rats, they would kill anybody.
And Henry was a killer, but he wasn't a butcher like the others. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely, 100%.
And you were talking about him.
A little while before we went on air, and we had his daughter send some pictures of Henry, and she said he wasn't like the others. Whether she meant he wasn't a butcher or whatever, but he was definitely a killer, total fucking gangster, and he's doing life now.
Yeah, he didn't mind killing. He just didn't like the cut up part. I mean,
yeah, that wasn't his forte.
Well, you got to respect him for that. Danny, think about it. How much does it take to be willing to cut a body up when you?
That's not for a normal person to do, and I'm not trying to categorize as somebody killing something as normal, but to go to the next step, to sit in a bathtub with them and cut them up, you got to be on some level of nuts there to do that.
Yes. Testa gets out in 2032, same as Jimmy Coonan. Well, how old will he be? He'll be like 90.
If he gets out. If he gets out.
Yeah,
they have to give him a date.
Yeah, you're talking 10 years, my man. You're talking, listen, if someone's in their mid 80s or 90 years old, he did a lot, they did a lot of time. But the judge did say that neither one of them should ever see daylight again because of how vicious they were. But I don't think they're going to be a threat at the age of 85. Okay. Yes, Scott H. Right. Exactly. They killed the dealer. And it was 3 of them they killed. Yeah. It's like the movies when you think about it. They literally went in there and killed 3 of them. Took the money and the drugs. I always wondered, in the end, who got the money and drugs? Do you think DeMeo took a part of that split, even though he had to kill him?
Who the fuck knows? Probably. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Who the hell knows?
Marky said, you mean Henry Borelli, not Heary. Who said? Okay. I just passed by the Gemini Lounge a month ago. It looks like it's some kind of church now. Very strange.
It is.
You cannot get stranger than that. Can you imagine?
That's where Jimmy Calandra says he hung out. They used to go in there as a kid.
Jimmy Calandra went there as a kid?
Yeah, big mouth.
I hear that Jimmy Calandra wanted to be. I hear Jimmy Calandra
wanted him out.
Yeah.
Fucking pig, bastard. fucking
Danny, don't go in on Jimmy right now.
He's a fucking faggot. That's what he is. A motherfucker. He couldn't beat up his fucking brother, you punk bastard.
Yeah, Jimmy was just talking a lot of shit about us on another show.
Tough guy.
Yeah,
he's so fucking tough. Fuck this cocksucker. So all he does is suck Bill Petullo's cock. Two fucking fags. They oil each other up and fuck each other.
I knew he was going to get going. Okay. Now Jimmy's going to have his crew. Hey, guys, they're making fun of me.
Yeah, Jimmy can suck a cock in fucking Bath Avenue's window.
Yeah. Yeah, Jimmy, we heard you talking a lot of shit about us on another
Even
show
Tony
before.
Marie called you a rat. You fucking rat. You cock-sucking rat. Suck some more cocks.
Yeah, Jimmy, you could say whatever you want about us, but you can't call us rats. And Jimmy said, once again, I don't know nothing about Brooklyn. You're a dumbass, Jimmy. You got the IQ of a fucking pigeon, Jimmy.
Yeah, he's a moron. You ever hear him? Fucking monkey.
Fight your own battles, Jimmy, like a man. You got to go on other channels. Jimmy, you got to go on other.
Find me.
You got to go on other channels, Jimmy, and call people names. Why don't you go on your channel and call people names?
Yeah.
You know why? Because you use these other channels. Because you don't have the balls to say that shit on your channel, Jimmy. And you know what, Jimmy? Now we're going to come after you fucking hard, you little bitch. I'm sorry. Right before the show, I said, let's not say nothing about Jimmy. But when you think about him, the guy was just over there talking a bunch of shit. How he's going
to go ahead. Fuck him, Lee. Let's go. We did it.
Fuck him. Cocksucker. Okay. Sorry, people. Anthony Senter and Kevin Kelly from the Westies were good friends. In prison, loads of photos of them together. Okay. Yes. Reznikov was going to kill Beluga. Matter of fact, here's what Reznikov did. He literally put a gun to his head.
Correct. Yep.
And Beluga had a heart attack.
Yeah.
And when he had the heart attack, Casso went to see him in the hospital. And Beluga told him what happened. Lee, you're doing good with the Russian names, I guess, because you're married to a Russian. Yeah, right. I wasn't married. I could say Puerto Rican names. I was married to a Puerto Rican. No problem with Mexican names. I was married to a Mexican. No problem with a Russian name. I was married to a Russian. But I never married an Italian. I knew better. Come on, them Italian women, they're crazy. They nearly beat Albert DeMeo. Yes, that's another very good
the Gemini Twins.
Yeah, and so this was right after they killed the father, right? That they almost beat. So were they afraid that Albert DeMeo wanted to kill them or wanted revenge?
Albert DeMeo wasn't in that. He wasn't even in that ballpark. So
right, but they still gave him a vicious beating.
Yeah,
they had a lot of anger toward Albert DeMeo when they killed him, I'm guessing.
Absolutely.
Okay, very good, Monk. Frank DeChico got the Gemini Twins to kill, and I read that too, to kill Roy DeMeo. It was all Gambino infighting at that time, wasn't it, Danny?
Yeah. Well, John Gotti was caught even saying that, he was a loose cannon.
Gaspipe was a paranoid psychopath.
100%.
Do you think so? Hey, people, if you want to donate, please donate to the show. If you want to cash app.
Now, let me just iterate. Anybody that doesn't like Jimmy Calandra, the punk, donate $1. I challenge everybody. I donated. Go ahead. $1 for the rat Jimmy Calandra.
Well, Jimmy's going to go run into his boys now to have them attack us. Fucking bitch. God, I hate that motherfucker. I heard Roy's uncle work at the bar and called him Dracula as they would murder random drunks for practice. You know something? I don't know whether this is... Do you think that a lot of this may have been added on to the myth of these people? Or do you think that they were just brutal where they would kill innocent people?
I have no idea. All I can tell you is this, is that they were definitely feared in Brooklyn and all over the boroughs. They were definitely killers, and they didn't care who they killed. If there was a disagreement, an argument, whatever it was, or somebody needed to be offed, they would do it. No question about it.
Tommy was never insane even when he got arrested. How is Tommy Karate even a made member? His mother was German. He's not even 100%. What do you think about that?
That's a fallacy. That's a fallacy. listen, you guys can believe what you want. Tommy Patera was 100% Italian, or at least 0.5%. Doesn't matter. He was made. So, his father was Italian, so he was made.
Legal Eagle. I don't know what you mean. Claudio, can you direct to Lee C episode that mentions theft of a car and a VW return of keys? My cousin did nothing. I don't even know what you're talking about, Legal Eagle. 311 in the house right now. Thank you so much. I know firsthand Jimmy Coonan and others had his guys head on the bar, and they were all making fun and laughing about it, giving the head a glass of beer checks. I don't know what you mean here. I'm coming in on a conversation somewhere.
I believe that was in the Sunbright, not in the 596 Club. I believe it was Sunbright. I could be mistaken, but I believe it was in the Sunbright, not the 596 Club.
Richard Kolinsky.
Don't even mention this fucking motherfucker. Don't even get into this fucking ape. He's a nobody. He's a fallacy. Keep going. The guy's a jerk off. He had nothing to do with the DeMeo Crew. Come on.
Do you think that was just something?
He was in Trenton State Prison. He couldn't even come out of his cell. He was such a tough guy. Black guys had him. Forget about it. The guy's another comic book character. Go ahead. Go to the next one.
You know who he kind of reminds me of?
What?
He kind of looks like him too, Ramundi.
Yeah. Yeah.
Killing people just because they were looking for family. Yes. Rat Irish.
Yeah.
And not only did they do that, it was more than once.
They killed the vacuum kid, the kid that sold vacuums door to door because he looked like somebody. So he was afraid that they were going to kill DeMeo. He was deathly afraid. So,
well, he didn't. That vacuum salesman came to DeMeo's door, and he thought he was one of the Cuban hitmen.
Yeah, that's how paranoid he was.
He literally chased him down the street and killed him.
So they listen. They didn't give a fuck.
Well, here's something Bill Jordan says. What do you think about this? They say the crew had up to 200 bodies.
Hey, listen. Probably. You can't say no because they were stone cold killers. They love to kill. So, possibly, absolutely.
Here's the question, though. Should anybody ever get out of prison, no matter what age, if they were convicted of 5 murders, but they knew they did many more? I mean, Sammy Gravato got out, so I guess at least these guys didn't rat. Could you imagine if they ratted the things that they knew about people, Danny?
Sure.
I mean, they knew everything about the Lucchese's. They knew everything about the Gambinos. They could have sang all day. The Gambinos had the Westies, and they had the Gemini Crew. Now that's power. Not only that, Bill, the Gambinos had the Westies and and they had the Gemini Crew, but they also had John Gotti's crew. Now, they were vicious killers too, right? John Gotti.
Yeah, but and I don't want to take anything away from that, but there's no comparison to a guy that was a stone cold psychopath. I mean, believe it or not, there was some kind of morality distinguishing the two. I think Gotti's crew, they were killers, but they weren't that extra yard kind of guy. You know what I mean?
They killed like mobsters. They didn't.
If you want to define, the both of them.
A lot of times they had burial grounds because they would kill these guys and bury their whole body.
Well, Patera, he had one in Staten Island. Then there was one in New Jersey, the old chicken farm. I forget, Celso, I think his last name was. They buried bodies on the guy's chicken farm. Not only did they bury him, he had pigs. They used to feed the body to the pigs, and the pigs would eat the whole fucking body.
And the most amazing thing, Danny, when you think about it, is the father and son that went to DeMeo looking for their son. Not only were they killed, they were cut up and never found again.
Yeah, they were never found.
And this was an innocent father and son. Yeah. They were civilians. So when people say, "Oh, Roy DeMeo was a psychotic nut," so was Senter, and and Testa. They were all crazy, insane people. Joey was 1 billion times worse than Joe. I'm guessing that you mean Anthony was 1 billion times worse than Joey. That's a lot. So we talked about when they killed the Russian Reznikov, it was Senter that killed him. So he had to be pretty crazy too. Danny Trio is like an NFL analyst, the way he analyzes who is and not a killer. Very interesting. Okay.
Listen, I'm just a guy that I don't know what the word is. Whatever it is. I'm nobody. I'm a nobody. I've been around some people, including Patty Testa. So maybe I know some things that I can talk about, but I'm no different than anybody else on YouTube.
I heard a few podcasts, as long as you're Italian and your father's side, you can become made.
Yeah, that's the new one now. That's back
yeah.
in the day, you had to be 100% Italian. Now it's 50%, and your father has to be, your father has to be Italian in order to be made. Doesn't matter what your mother is.
And Danny, also, when you not only back then did both parents have to be Italian, they would also thoroughly check the families out.
They did. Absolutely, they did. That's
to see
a good
where they
point.
came from in Sicily. I mean,
Yep.
what generation they were.
Yep.
I mean, they wanted to know your family. They wanted to know everything about you.
Absolutely.
Just in case. Yeah, Teddy, you are right. It was 100%. But, and it wasn't that long ago, because guys like Joe Watts, who couldn't get made, and there were a lot of guys that were just as vicious as any Italian, and they couldn't get made at all. It didn't matter how much Italian blood they had in them.
Right.
Okay, Legal Lisi, I talked to an Angel's chat about your public video. Just appreciate truth about your public information put out. Nothing else, or nor heard to bother anyone. Okay, I understand that, Legal. Whatever, Listen, we come on here to do shows, people, and we don't do a lot of lives, because we're trying to make this a serious channel, and so we do lives because we're asked to do lives. We could drop videos all the time, and we come here and do lives. We have 321 people here right now.
If there's 321 people in here, everybody donate $1 because Jimmy Calandra is a fuck boy. So if you don't like Jimmy Calandra, even if you like him, throw $1 into the Cash App for Lee for putting this show together, and fuck these rats. Everybody put $1 in here.
And people, just so you know, before we came on here, Jimmy Calandra was talking a bunch of tough guy shit about me and Danny. He's going to beat us up, and we don't know nothing about New York. And he's all mad because of a video I put up yesterday because of a woman that was talking about him being a rat.
So have one of the mods put up your Cash App, Lee. NB, if you're listening, put up his Cash App, please.
It's at the top. It's pinned at the top.
All right.
Okay. And I haven't checked my Cash App yet. I may already have something in there.
If you are donating, thank you very much, and fuck Jimmy Calandra in the ass.
I knew this was going to happen. Jimmy just talks a lot of tough stuff. Why does that motherfucker think he's so tough? And why do people think he's tough?
Jesus Christ.
All you got to do is watch his video of him throwing punches and kicks. Come on. You could tell that's not a street fighter right there.
Never was. He was a punk.
Yeah, and we can fight our own battles, Jimmy. Can you? You can't fight your own battles. You got to have your crew fight them for you, Jimmy, you coward. I'm sorry. Now you got me talking. I told you not to talk about Jimmy. Roy was a butcher by trade. Cutting up the body was no big deal. And that's what we said, my man. Okay, let's see. Scott looked for Murder Machine with Dominic Montiglio, Nino Gadget's nephew. Yes, a matter of fact. And Dominic Montiglio, he was part of that crew also, right, Danny?
Yeah, he died last year.
Right.
Another rat.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, he was a rat.
So he wound up turning on these guys in the end.
Yep.
What the hell are you talking about? Danny, who sold the VW keys that Lee had to give back? What are you talking about, Legal Eagle? You're about to get blocked, Legal Eagle.
No, let him call. He's another simpleton. He's
You're
another
talking
moron.
shit right now, you dickhead. Okay,
His mother had the VW.
Yeah.
That's where we took
Put
it
up
from.
another thing like that legally, or you're blocked.
Fucking crippled-minded bastard, you.
Now they're talking about stolen Volkswagens.
Yeah.
If I was going to steal a car, it wouldn't be a Volkswagen. I can tell you that much right now. Billy the Kid, he is a star on the inside. I knew Jimmy from 86th Street. He hasn't changed a bit.
Yeah, he's still a fake.
Yeah, still a tough guy. He thinks he's the fucking tough guy. He tells everybody how tough he is.
He thinks
and
he's the
there's a certain group of guys that believe him.
Yeah.
They believe how tough he is.
Another fucking cripple-minded cocksucker.
Okay. Not many people know, but Tommy Karate started out with the Clumbos. His uncle was Billy Martino, a.k.a.
Billy Martin.
I didn't know the Yankees manager was part of that.
Yeah.
Lee Cole, let it roll, baby, let it roll.
What's up, Richie?
Okay, listen, guys, I'm going to talk to you about someone. There's a new show on. Hold on one second, guys. I want to shout him out. His name, whoops. His name is Dean. If you go underneath my if you go underneath this and look into information, there's a guy named Dean Wilkerson that has a show, and his link is there. If you guys can go sub to his channel, he's a really nice guy. And also, I have a second podcast that I'm doing now, and I'm not going to do it until I get to a certain amount of people, but I've been putting out videos, and it's called Wrestling with the Devil, a Lee Cole podcast. If people can go over there and sub, I'd really appreciate it. It's always good to have a second channel too, with people always trying to get other people taken down and stuff, or striking shows. But if you can go over to that channel, I would appreciate that, and sub there. We got a bunch of people in here. We have almost 8,000 subs now. So if some of you guys can go over there, we got 327 in here right now, 327 real people. Thank you. Okay. Scott Bell, those articles are wrong, sir. I'm from Queens and I'm 70. That's all I'll say. Okay. So who are you to say that? Danny, were you ever present in front of Testa and Senter?
No. I did some work with Patty Testa with tag jobs on windshields.
David, you know, I would rather get my info from Wikipedia than the book Murder Machine. Yeah, well, you know, Wikipedia, I know that's a joke, okay? We already have a guy that gets his thing from Wikipedia. It's the king of Wikipedia. We're not going to mention his name, but he has
He's got little hands.
He has tiny hands.
He's got dwarfism in his family.
Yeah, he's a dwarf with tiny hands.
Yeah.
Okay, they're not crazy. It's all about the choice. Nothing crazy about it. Sit in front of the TV and stuff your face and bet on games. That's crazy. Can we discuss Jimmy's meltdown today? Yeah, we already seen it. He was a tough guy. He came on. He threatened Danny, called Danny a fat bastard, called me a fat bastard. And for some reason, I've never been in Brooklyn. I've never been in New York, people. See, Jimmy doesn't want to. You can't even describe this idiot. You can't even describe him. The fact that some people like him and he's an uneducated moron. That's what Jimmy Calandra is. And Jimmy, if you think that by attacking us that you're going to get us off your case, or you're going to go get your little posse to come after us, no, Jimmy. All you're going to do is now I'll put up more 60-second shorts on you. And we're trying to stay out of the friction with people. Just so you do know, we want to do real shows and talk and have a good time. And this is why, but when you have this guy come busting out, screaming at people out of the blue. And he's been doing it his whole life. That's all Jimmy Calandra has been doing his whole life, is threatening people. Threatening to beat people up. But Danny, how many people has he actually beaten up?
He can't beat himself up. Let him go out in the fucking street and shadow box himself, because that's the only one he's going to beat up. He's a fucking illiterate. Look at him. He's a fucking failure. You're a failure, Jimmy Calandra. You're a fucking failure. You're a bum. You've always been a bum.
Jimmy, all you got to do is keep our name out of your fucking mouth.
Fuck him, Lee. Fuck that cocksucker.
I'm sure he's just remembering the wrong. I mean, it's confusing.
Hey, Jimmy Calandra, why don't you come on the show now, big shot? Fucking Lee, drop the link. You're watching, you punk bastard. You're a fairy. You're a pussy bastard. That's what you are.
Chris Grosso,
you rub people's backs, their feet. You jerk their cocks off for them. You're a fucking queer. Fucking punk bastard.
They say as long as your father is all Italian. Okay, well, we're past that, people. I'm going to get more. And thank you, Chris Grosso. I appreciate it. Anthony Piorina, thank you very much. I love your emoji. That's so cool, dude. Scott Bell, why are you guys arguing, man? There's no reason to argue in here. You guys get along. Come on. Scott Bell, I'm not going to argue with you. I'm in New York. Just do your research, because those articles are wrong. Scott, I don't know what you're talking about. Why don't you email me afterwards? It sounds kind of interesting, the conversation you're having. They're getting Colombians and Cubans mixed up, regardless of me putting historical articles stating the fact. But I'm sure they're even, and they confuse the two of themselves. I don't. Lee, remember the sound of cars being chopped up every night in Hell's Kitchen in the 70s? Yes. Let me tell you something. I used to walk through Hell's Kitchen back in 79 all the time. And it was a pretty rough area. It was a strange area because during the day, you could walk through it, no issues. But at nighttime, you couldn't really go through Hell's Kitchen. Tommy Reynolds is the only one that didn't go bad from that crew. No.
Fabrizio didn't either.
Yeah, Fabrizio didn't either, Tommy. Those were the two good guys. Even the guy that shot the woman in the head because he sat in jail like a man and took his medicine. I don't know about elsewhere, but in Ireland, you're not allowed on a jury if you have worked as a butcher by trade. Is that true? Tommy Reynolds, yeah, Tommy Reynolds is going to be made. American Made. Lee, Danny, great show.
His father was thanks a lot, American Made. Tommy Reynolds' father was also around at Genevieve's crime family.
Upside Down, Dean, I think it's the channel you're talking about. Yes. Oh, Dean Wilkerson right here. That's Dean Wilkerson's channel. Claudio, thank you so much for putting that up. It's great. I'm going to drop the link. If anybody wants to jump up, hit the link. If you don't, you don't have to. But there's 317 people in here. If you want people to see you, come on up. 317 in the house right now. Hey guys, great show. Danny, did you know Joey or Mike Knapp from Coney Island? Joey
I did.
You did know them?
Yes.
Do you have any tattoos, Danny?
I got 13 of them.
13 of them. Wow. I didn't realize that. I got two. One with my granddaughter's name on it and one with my first wife's name on it. Only my granddaughter is the only woman I should ever get tattooed on me. She was a child when she was born. As a matter of fact, it's right there on my arm.
Yeah.
It says Sierra and then the date of birth. The link's down there if anybody wants to grab it, people. Dean, I don't know if you're here, but if you want to grab it and come down and introduce yourself, just feel free to grab it. It's 7 o'clock. I know you are out. Tommy Stiggs, what neighborhood are you from? Bensonhurst from Gravesend born. Yeah, Tommy Stiggs is from New Jersey. Just so you do know. And Tommy Stiggs, if you haven't checked out his channel, just put in Tommy Stiggs. He has a good, they drink coffee and bullshit in the morning. And he always looks wide awake. Scott Bell, the funniest thing about Jimmy is shadow boxing or weightlifting, other than being a social retard and being successful starting his YouTube cult. Yes, he does have his followers. There was a small, vicious drug gang based in West Dublin late in the 90s and early. They called themselves the Westies. They terrorized people for a while, but they didn't last long. Yeah, Ireland's not going to let them last long. Okay. Shia LaBeouf. That guy's a great actor, by the way. He's looking for Jimmy's lies to make a cartoon out of him.
Yeah, because Jimmy's is a comic book character. That's all he is.
I don't even know if he can make it in comic books, Danny.
Yeah, well, that's true. I didn't think about that.
He's such a tough guy, but he can't fight his own battles, Danny.
He's
You
a
ever notice
punk.
that?
He's always been a punk.
Jimmy was good with his hands as long as Donna Summers is on the radio. Okay.
It's hysterical. Oh my God.
That was a good one.
On the radio? What the fuck is that? Donna Summers on the radio?
Yeah, picture Jimmy Clandor working out with Donna Summers on the
Oh my God. Great show, guys. Great show. I just wanted to check in. I love it. Once in a while, Lee, I mean, people were mentioning it in my morning show this morning that you're going to be the lone survivor of this whole situation here because of the way you're doing it.
And we don't want to attack nobody or fight. You know, I'll be honest, we've been trying to stay at it, but you know, you got Jimmy Calandra showing up and shouting all these threats out today like a retard.
That goes nowhere. That all ends. This is what will last.
Absolutely.
I believe that.
And they say what they can say what we want. We get a good amount of you see every live. We have a nice amount of people in here. We get along. And you know, someone made a statement that I self-destruct and I'm not making money now. How does anybody know what money I make? Isn't that amazing?
Just do your thing. It all comes. You don't need monitors, right? They want to monitor your money. Come on, forget about it.
I can come on I can come on here 5-6 days a week and do a live, people. But how good would it be?
No.
Would it be any? It gets drawn out. You're looking. You know, we actually want to talk mob content. If you come on here, Danny, how could you do it 6-7 days a week talking mob?
Listen, guys. Danny, listen. It's not about the content only. It's also about the delivery. So you can have the most interesting story. If you can't deliver it and bounce off somebody like you guys do,
Sure.
It's not going to work.
Right. It's like it's
work.
robotic. Right. Exactly.
It's yes, you're just delivering a story, but you got to have something to deliver that story.
Sure.
Otherwise, you're not going to capture your crowd. Lee, I'm telling you 100%. This morning, your show came up in my morning chat. You're sleeping. Yeah, I know that. I'm having coffee with my crew, 7 o'clock in the morning. Your show came up as going to be the lone survivor. And the reason is lesser shows.
Mine and Danny show.
I know, yeah. Lesser shows, good content and delivery. And that is it. So when I saw you were going live, and I'm sure some of the people that were in my chat this morning saw that you were going to have a show today, they were like, okay, this is going to be great. Good. They're looking forward to it.
Well, that's
Thanks,
good.
Thanks a lot.
And that's good to hear because.
Well, I'm telling you, I'm giving you the feedback that I get. Why not deliver it to you guys?
You know what's nice though, when you do 1 or 2 lives a week, I really look forward to them. When I was doing them 4 or 5 days a week, I wasn't looking forward to them.
It's work,
Well,
really work at that point.
Because today I was reading up on the twins. I did a lot of reading. I went to all sorts of databases and stuff, reading on them. And you know, when I read on them, like, wow, these guys were like crazy ass killers. I heard about them. I knew the basic stories about them. But when you learn more about these guys, Tommy, you realize the Gemini Twins were just brutal killers.
Crazy group. Now, listen, I was a freshman in high school, and I know when Roy got killed because the Gambinos had a very, very, very strong presence in my neighborhood. In fact, when John Gotti thought he was getting life, they were considering shifting the power to my neighborhood. Bobby Cabert was going to take the power. I don't know how long, temporarily, whatever, but they thought highly of the Jersey crew. So I remember clearly a lot of different things that went on. And I remember, I think it was 84 or so. I think I was a freshman in high school when he got clipped. I was young, and I remember it.
You know something? If I was going to ever take a contract out on somebody and I had to send them to do the contract, you know who it would be, Danny?
Oh,
It would be this guy.
Church Avenue Dan.
Church Avenue Dan. If
What's
Church
up,
Avenue Dan comes looking for you, people run.
This guy right there.
Hey, Church Avenue, I'm dropping a link. Why don't you come up here and say hi?
Church Avenue, great spot in Hell's Kitchen, 44X, 44th and 10th. Beautiful place. Good joint. I don't know
Hey, Dan,
if you're around that area, but
if you're here, you grab it.
that's a good spot.
Church
44th
Avenue,
and
Dan.
Yep. 44X. It's on 44th and 10th. It's a corner bar. It's got stools on the outside and stools on the other side. It's a nice place. Hell's Kitchen. This was a good show, guys. Really good show.
There's even a bar in Hell's Kitchen now. Is that the one you're talking about that they named after the area?
44X, yeah, 44th and 10th. 44.
Well, you know, I remember all the old bars down there. I was working in Times Square at that time, back in 79, 80, and 81. And those bars, when you went into them, they smelled like bars.
Oh, it was bad. I remember jumping the train in Jersey City because I'm from Jersey. So we would jump the train in Jersey City and go over there. Man, it was like Disney World for us kids.
Westies, Jimmy Calandra is losing his mind before us on screens. He deserves everything he gets.
Absolutely.
You guys, listen, you guys just hang in there, do what you're doing. You're going to keep it going very nicely. This was a really nice show. This is what
Thanks, Tommy.
this is
Thanks.
what they want. Arm Distance just said it, and he's in my show every morning, Arm Distance. He said, that's why I'm here, Tommy. We spoke about it this morning. Matty Marinara, great show. I love his delivery, man. Love that voice Matty Marinara has. He was on last night. I check into a lot of these shows.
Okay, 48 and what kind of food? I understand if you don't say it's got made. Okay.
No, 44th and 10th. 44th and 10th. It's like an Irish pub, but American type of stuff. You can get basically anything, but you get a drink. It's nice. They have outside stools. They have about 10 of them. They have about 10 stools on 44th and about 10 stools on 10th. It's a nice little spot.
2 cash apps just came in. Thank you both.
Hello, Seymour. Hello, guys. Hello, crew. Hello, chat crew. This is where you're going to get good stuff.
Let's see, Johnny.
Hey, Danny. Hey, Lee.
What
How
are
are
you
you?
doing?
Listen, can you guys hear me clearly?
Yes.
Yeah.
Really.
Danny, I have a question for you.
Sure.
Do you remember Jackie Homestretch from the Homestretch Bar?
Sure. I lived right down the block from there.
Okay, I'm from the neighborhood. Jackie Homestretch used to come into the after-hour clubs. Yeah, I don't know how old you are. I'm older than both you guys. But how old are you,
I'm
Danny?
60. I'm 60.
I'm 64. Do you
Okay.
remember Jackie? I came up with Joe Waverly and Tommy Patera.
Joe
What people
that's
don't
good.
know
Okay.
is Tommy. Let me tell you what's going on. Tommy Patera lived right around the corner from me. We both went to the same
Okay.
karate school on Bay Parkway.
Right.
It was called Japan
Right.
Judo Karate. Now, when I started, I was a white belt. He was a green belt. But then he went to Japan. When he came back, Joe Waverly had an after-hour club on East 14th and Avenue on the side of the block. When Tommy came back, he was the bouncer. I was the bartender. My father was partners with Joe Waverly. So that's how he got started. His uncle was Bill Martin, also his uncle was
Right.
then he switched over to the Gambinos. There's a lot of things that people don't know about. Incriminating. A lot of the stuff that comes on the internet,
You're breaking up. You're
just
breaking up, my
general,
man.
is not that
breaking
it's not that people are lying. It's just that it's not accurate because where they're getting the information.
Exactly.
Let me ask him a question. Do you think Tommy got that violence when he went overseas, or it was in him already?
No, here's what it is with Tommy. Hold on, let me just have something to drink here. I'm getting dry. Here's what happened with Tommy. Tommy was always a quiet kid. And they tell stories about, now you gotta remember something. I know Tom, I'm 64. Tommy's 3 years older than me. He's 67. I know him since I'm 12. Like I said, we lived around the corner, but we also went to the same karate school. His father used to drive him, and my father used to drive me because the karate school was on Bay. It was on Bay Parkway and like between West 7th and West 8th. Danny, do you remember the 24-hour newsstand on Bay Parkway?
Right on the corner, yes.
Church Avenue, Dan, how you doing?
Yeah. Okay. So we were too young to walk. It was a pretty far walk. So that's how I knew the father. I also knew the sister, but
Nick, you take the comment off the channel?
I'm sorry, he fell out. What's that? I'm sorry. Church Avenue, Dan, how you doing?
What's going on, fellas? How you guys doing?
Danny, real quick. Danny, what do you think? Do you think Tommy got his violent streak when he went overseas? I know he was bullied as a young kid. I know that for a fact. He was bullied as a young kid. Do you think he got his violent ways, Danny Trio, when he went overseas, or he just grew into his violent ways?
No, I think his violent ways came out after he came back from Japan. I think he knew what he was and what he could do, and I think it just it catapulted because he was always picked on, and now he had a platform to beat the shit and kill people. So
they pulled it out of him because that's what that sport and culture teaches you. It doesn't teach you to kill. It doesn't teach you to kill, but it does teach you to protect. He just took it to another level.
Absolutely.
I just like to say one thing. Church Avenue, I owe you an apology. When you came on here one time, you went after a certain individual. I'm not going to name him. I defended that certain individual. I shouldn't have done it, especially because of the way that certain individual acts now. But how are you doing anyway? I hope you accept my apology on that.
Listen, always, brother. You and Dan, you guys are gentlemen. You're class acts. Same thing for Tom. Like I said, I knew that kid was a little junk box garbage bag. I just knew it. Sometimes you got to make a mistake and realize, how about this? Just thank God you never did something financially with that piece of garbage, or, you never did a podcast together to the point where, he would have screwed you over somehow, because that kid is straight garbage pail.
Yeah, he came in, and just so you know, he came in here. He was talking to, he started arguing with you, and I took you off because of it. But then, once everything happened, and I got my mind back and got out of the situation I was in, every day he's in chat saying horrible. He doesn't even know me, this man, and saying horrible crap. And this is a guy I defended. And well,
you know what it is. The easiest thing to do is go on a platform on a computer and threaten people in the street. None of these. I'm trying to tell you something. None of these guys would come to your fucking face, get in your face, and tell you what they tell you on the fucking YouTube. They wouldn't do it. Not in a million years. They wouldn't do it, because these are all guys that got beat up, fucked, and everything else, and now they got a platform. They want to talk shit about people. That's what they do.
You know what? Every single guy I've seen that's got Omerta tattooed on his arm always wanted to be in a fucking rat and a half.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That's a fact.
He could be tough and talk tough in the hills of Pennsylvania, but I'm from I'm from fucking Church Ave, Brooklyn, where it wasn't easy for white kids. You know what I'm saying? Listen, bro, you know what it is? A fisherman, Dan, always sees a fisherman from afar, bro.
Yep.
I'll
Yep.
leave it at that, broski. You know what I'm saying? A fisherman always sees
Absolutely.
another fisherman.
Yeah.
You know, when I used to go out to Bay Ridge, I don't want to say no names, but you know, after like a year, guys would ask me, "Yo, you're always out here alone, kid. Where's your crew?" And
That's right.
I was like, "What do I need a crew for?" Then another guy named would be like, "What are you gonna do if 5, 6 guys jump you?" I was like,
Thank you, John.
I got lead for each 5 and 6 of them. And the guy loved me. When I said that, the guy loved me so much. He grabbed me. The guy, I don't want to say his name. The guy literally grabbed me and kissed me on the head. Was like, "Get this kid whatever the fuck he wants." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, and he was one of the guys from your friends. You know, from
Right.
13th Avenue there, powerhouse guy. You know. But
Hey,
I
Church
don't want to say names.
Dan, have you met Tommy Stiggs?
No. I mean, I've seen Tom. Tom, you're a gentleman. I always see whenever you're on,
Thank
brother,
you.
you're always a gentleman.
Appreciate it. Nice meeting you, pal.
Yeah, my wife's family's from North Jersey. My wife's grandfather, the mom's father, I'm sorry, he was a big Teamster guy. He was a little guy, 5'2", but his name was Pop. You know what I'm saying? Back in the days, that was his nickname. You know, he's a little fella, but you know, he was a tough little motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? He used to tell me Teamster stories and just great, like you know, really, Jersey doesn't get the respect. You know why? Those guys are quiet out there. You know, Jersey's very, very quiet. That's one thing I realize. Even when I see his friends, I notice everyone. Like I feel like I'm back in Albania sitting down with the good old guys back there. Everyone's quiet.
We're very tight knit. Very tight knit.
Yeah. Their eyes still work. They see who's coming in the cafe, who's, you know what I'm saying? Old school guys. You know, they keep those values there in Jersey, not for none. That's one thing I'll give them out there.
To this day, in my neighborhood, 100% same way. It has not changed.
Yeah, my wife's ran from Bergen, like right over the GWB over there. Like
yeah. Fort Lee, Bergenfield.
Yeah, right past that. The next town once you pass it.
I got to read Scott. I got to read Scott Bell's because it's kind of funny. Pittsburgh Pookie having a meltdown quicker than The Rock disappearing in his pipe. That deserved to be showed, my man.
I'm about 10 minutes from where you're talking about, Dan. I'm north Belleville area. So
yeah. Mine's by Bergen Boulevard over there. That's where my you know, my original in-laws are from 13th Ave. They got a famous pizzeria there for like 50 years. I don't want to say the name because, you know.
Yep. I know it all very well. Yes, I'm here. Yeah. I'm still here. I never really left. So some people leave, some people don't. I still stayed around. So whatever.
You know what's funny? I wanted to tell you guys this. Like this is before I ever went on your thing. You know, I went on one of Jimmy's lives because you know what? When I'm bored, I'll be home. I'll watch the guy, right? So the guy just kept, you know, listen, bro, he's very, very repetitive. It's the same effing story over and over and over and over. So I went on there and I told him straight up and down. I said, listen, I said, you keep cursing, you know, like your friends or whatever. I was like, when Spiro talked, people listened, bro. You know what I'm saying? When Spiro talked, people listened.
Right.
And his nephew's my next door neighbor. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
He never talks about the fact that he put hands on Spiro in front of God knows how many guys were right there, bro. That kid's lucky he didn't get dropped right there, with all due respect. God rest the kid's soul.
A lot of people say that. A lot of people say that he's lucky he got off the block that day.
Bro, people were there. You understand what I'm telling you?
Yeah.
His nephew's my neighbor. People were there. The kid is lucky he even made it that far. But you know what? Jimmy couldn't answer the one thing I was asking him when I was like, what would you do? Like, what are you going to do? You're going to give your friend a heads up? That's really the best you could do. You know, hope to God the guy gets away. And then what? You're going to get clipped for that. What do you think? These guys are stupid? You think that guy made it to being the acting boss, underboss, because he's an idiot to fall for something like that?
Well, listen, right. I was actually listening to Mikey Scars. Listen, I disagree with everything about Mikey Scars, but I like listening to him because he actually knows what he's talking about because he was part of that life. And he
that's the guy that Calenza rubbed his back and gave him a fucking finger in the
ass. Oh, I keep forgetting that famous back rub. But anyway, someone got to ask Mikey about that back rub. But anyway, Mikey was talking about Anthony Sparrow. He said Anthony Sparrow was a very well-liked guy. And he was just one of those guys that he didn't kill you unless you had it coming.
Because he was a gentleman, bro. Let me
He
tell you
wasn't
something.
like
I never
a killer
ever
running
heard
around the
anyone say
streets,
something bad
Anthony
about that
Sparrow.
man.
And
Sincerely,
so
I'm
my
not saying that because my neighbor, but even other people. You know, I'm from Church Ave, but I was always running around Avenue U, here, there. You know what I mean? But, you know, like I said, but I mean, I can understand where Jim feels a certain type of way. They all tattooed a number. But listen, guys, there's guys that clip their own fucking brother, their first cousins, their brother-in-law. You know, it happens, bro. You know, it's part of life.
It's a horrible life.
You know what I'm saying? You want to listen, everyone. Look, I don't like to say too much, but let me just say this for all the guys that are watching that understand. We all know what road we fucking picked and chose.
100%.
Yeah.
We all fucking know. You know, you can't put on your gangster underwear one day and then tomorrow not want to wear them anymore. Don't fucking work like that. Especially when you're putting pain out there. You know, when you're fucking putting pain on someone, you know, you can't say, "Oh, I'm done," and then you see the guy a month later, and now he wants to put pain on you. Say, "Oh no, I'm done. I don't do that." Yeah, I don't give a fuck. You did it to me, jerk off. Eat this back. You understand? That's a part of the fucking game, bro.
You know it when
some
you're
people
involved.
don't realize that.
You know it when you're involved in it, what goes along with it. I knew full well one day when I was in a club, something happened in a social club. I knew full well that my own uncle was 2 minutes away from blowing my head off in the middle of a social club because of a scam that he was pulling, try to cover his shit up and clipping me in the club in front of all these guys. I knew full well that that was a possibility. You know full well what it's all about when you're going into it. There is no, oh, I was lured into it. Oh my God, it was my environment. No, you know full well what you're doing. I'm not here to lean up.
Well, you got a good point there, Tommy. How about the guys that? I'll give you an example, like the whole situation that happened with Donnie Brasco. When those guys, when Sonny Black was called, he knew what was going to happen. He could have left town.
I did that maybe five. I could tell you 5 times that I did that when the call came in and I had to go. At least 5 times. Anytime that phone rang, you could not say no. You had to go. And he took his watch off. He put his money clip in the drawer. Whatever he did, he gave this to his wife. This is part of that, and you know that going in. It's a horrible, horrible, horrible life. Not many understand the nuts and bolts from the inside out. But when you're involved in something, you know full well what it is. And it's
and the movie, by the way, the movie Donnie Brasco messed it up. They had Lefty doing that, but it wasn't Lefty, it was Sonny Black. Dan, I want to read you. Danny, you there? Danny?
Yeah, I'm here.
I want to read you a question. Danny, does Jackie Homestretch or Ollie D from Kings Highway ring a bell? I don't know how old you are, so I don't know if you remember those guys.
Yes, I remember them. I used to live on Quinton Road, right down the block. I do know them.
Okay.
crazy.
You guys can continue talking. I'm sorry, I didn't mean that would, when someone has a question.
This is exactly how your show should be, Lee. 100% the way you did it. Talk on the topic, get into the chat a little bit. Boom, you got it. Home run.
Hey, Boot Hill, I know that you were blocked on another show, and they were bragging about it on another show, Boot Hill. So I hope that person realizes that people's blocking him in his chats, and Boot Hill was blocked. Boot Hill, imagine you're a youngster and your dad is this broke down used TV salesman named
Renee, thank you for that. Renee, thank you for that. I don't know if it's a compliment or what, but I appreciate that. Renee, thank you. It's just what we know. You know, you're growing it and you know it and you take it to the end, whatever it might be. You were talking about Mikey Scars. As far as the RadTube goes, Lee, I think he's the only one that will have a successful channel in the RadTube situation.
His show's growing every day. I mean,
yeah, he'll do well. You could see no excuses. He comes clean with what he did. I think he'll survive in the RadTube situation.
You know why I like that guy's Scars? Because you could tell by looking at his face that he probably wishes he did the time. You see, some people, when you're in jail, you know, they get that nervous that they rat. But I think a lot of these guys, they realize that, damn, you know what? I could have did 15. I could have did 20. I would have still been old man. You know, to me, when I watch him and I see him in his face, you know, or just I get a gut feeling that guy regrets ratting. And I feel like that guy probably wishes he went and did his time.
Let me add to that, Dan. Dan, let me add to that. He did not rat because of doing the time. Back then, there was a culture that when you got shelved, you really took it to heart. Being shelved back then was worse than being killed. You'd rather get clipped. He got shelved. He can definitely do the time. There was no doubt about him doing the time. He took it very personal into his heart that he got shelved because he has 100 years. He has 100 years of Cosa Nostra in his family. So he really went.
Tommy, was it Junior that shelved him?
I'm not sure who gave the order.
Okay,
that's what I'm saying. If it was Junior, he should have just did his time, got on, fucking clipped that bitch ass nigga.
No, I don't think it was Junior. I can't say. I wasn't there. I don't think it was Junior. I think it was Lee. I think it was a panel by that time. I'm not sure.
Let me ask you a question, Danny. Maybe you know this one. Do you know why he was shelved? Why?
I don't know why he was shelved. I do know that he was eventually shelved, and that's why he became an informant.
He was accused of stealing money or something, not passing money down.
Well, I don't know that. I mean, that's what they say, but I don't know that. I mean, I wasn't there. I don't know. I mean, that's what they say.
Everybody
Danny,
money.
Guys, he was not afraid to do the time. It was his heart. It was his pride. I believe that made him flip. Like I said, 125 years in his.
Well, Tommy, you got to remember though.
Yeah.
He flipped, but they could have easily, instead of shelving him, they could have killed him.
Exactly. Sure.
So they actually did him a favor.
In today's world, in that world back then, you rather get clipped.
Do they really want to be clipped? If you're afraid to go to Tommy, but if you're afraid to go to jail, you're definitely afraid of being clipped.
I don't think he feared jail. I think it was his heart. I really do. I may be wrong. I don't know for sure.
Let me ask Danny Trio on that. Danny, what do you think?
Shelved is a tough thing, man.
You know, listen, I you know what? I don't know. Maybe I'm cut from a different cloth, but I would have took my lumps. I wouldn't have ratted. You know what I mean?
No, he's meaning shelved, Danny. What do you feel? You know, when we talk shelved back in the day, that meant something fucking really bad, man. When you got shelved,
because now you're actually diminished to nothing. Here you were, somebody of importance and of stature, and now they took everything away from you. Now what do you have? What are you going to do?
Your soul is gone. They rip your soul out.
Yeah, exactly.
So Lee, to clarify, in today's day, yes, I'd rather be shelved than clipped, right? In their day, of 125 years of family history of it, being shelved is really tough, man. And they accept being killed as part of the business. So
now was he a part of a mob family?
Yeah,
100 plus years, Lee.
So his family was mobbed up for that long.
yeah.
Beginning of the century.
And he talks about that, doesn't he?
100%.
So it makes you wonder, you know, here you got Mikey Scars ratting, but he probably had a lot of members in his family that wind up in prison and did their time for the rest of their life.
No, his own brother got killed. His own brother got clipped.
That's why I think they shelved him. I think just out of
Robert.
respect that they, you know, they probably said, listen, we can't have two guys going from one thing. You know what I'm saying? They probably said, better off just shelf the guy. Plus, they didn't want that heat. Back then, they were under so much fucking surveillance. You know, who knows, man?
And Mikey Scars made a statement on his show, and it was toward Bill Catullo Jr., where he said that he kind of insinuated that he thought it was Wild Bill that killed his brother.
I'll be right back, guys. I got to go plug in my charger. Just give me a sec.
It could be. It could be anybody. You know, they farm out. You know, who knows? But,
do you know anything about his brother's killing, Danny? Mikey Scars.
I just know that Mikey wanted retribution, and they told him, "Don't you do a thing." So it was another family that killed him.
Yeah, it was another family, and
I don't know
it was
the
back in the
particulars.
80s. I might have been in the 80s, Danny, if I'm not mistaken. I don't remember. I was a young kid. I can't remember hearing these things in talk around the neighborhood. He was a young kid. I was young. So
Yeah, you're right, Matty. That's all they do, Matty. They want to call police and fucking probation officers. Real tough guys.
Mo, they
All
offered
these
me
guys-
5 years probation, right? I looked
He was
at
gonna
my
get-
lawyer. The judge goes, "Or you could take a year on Rikers Island." I was like, "Give me the year." The fucking judge.
Yeah,
A lot of listen. A lot of
the judge
people
thought I
rather
didn't
do
know
a
what I was
year.
talking about.
I've done
Yeah.
it. I've done it. I've taken time before I've taken paper.
Yeah, listen, yeah, exactly.
I've done a
bro.
bullet-
Dude, who
I've
the
done a
fuck wants
bullet.
Someone on your ass like that.
I've done a bullet. I had a choice of doing a bullet or 5 years probation, and I
Yeah,
chose
me
the
too.
bullet.
did.
And
I
I got
was doing
charged
two
with a
bullets,
misdemeanor
back to
instead
back.
of, and they gave me a misdemeanor instead of a felony.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. A
it was a
misdemeanor.
big
Yeah.
difference. So
paper's
it's-
tough, man. Paper's tough. You feel like you're in prison every day still.
especially when you're a criminal.
Yeah, because it's in your mind. You know.
Yeah, it's like you're a criminal, and it feels like you have a weights around your ankle. You can't do the things you want to do because
You can't. You got to report twice a week. I had to go to parole and probation in the same week. I mean, it's just you. Sometimes yes, let me max out and be done, and then I'm done. You know what I mean? But
look at us. Oh, look at us. We're all losers. We all been on probation here. Or
Bro,
jail.
the worst part, you guys ever had to go to those fucking things for like a year where they test your piss?
no, I
Yes.
never.
Yo, bro,
I got
I had the gayest guy in America. This guy had his fucking head right here, looking at my weenus. I'm like, yo, bro. He's like, it's the job, guy. I was like, all right, I know.
Yeah,
You're
but
fucking
you know
right
what?
here. You're fucking right here on me. What were you? I fucking
Hey, Dan, maybe he knew what you do to people after you beat them up.
What'd you say? What'd you say?
I said maybe he knew what you do to people after you beat them up.
No. You know what it is?
He was hoping that
my
you give him
cool
a
that day.
beating,
Believe
Dan.
me, I'm a straightforward true kind of guy. You know what it is?
That's
I'm
one of
just
the
a fucking
classic
nut job.
days.
Like when I lose it, horrible things come out of my mouth.
Yeah.
Right
Dude,
now,
that's one of the
happens,
classic
man,
moments
you
on this show.
Yeah.
know, it's,
I regret that I erased it.
don't worry. One day I'll go on that guy's show too if I could sneak on. That little Albanian cocksucker. What's his name? Jeff Nadu with the fucking toupee.
Yeah, that other. Yeah.
Yo, bro, let me tell you something. The day I was abusing FBS on this thing, and I was abusing Jeff too, because you know what I said. You know, this guy's anti-Albanian, always talking shit about us, making it seem like we can't put work in or something. And
Yeah.
then there's little Jeff sucking on his fucking balls. Da-da-da. Bro, the little bastard, he signs in. You see how all our names are here? He puts Church Avenue Dan. I'm like, Mo, this kid doesn't understand. I'm stupid. I'll drive to Pennsylvania and find him. I'll grab that little pig face. That's the ugliest Albanian I've ever seen in my life. That kid fucking came out feet first and was dropped on his face. He's ugly little pig face cocksucker. You hear me, Jeff? I'll fucking don't even
I'll
talk, man.
fuck you in the ass, Jeff.
I'll fucking go. You know what? He might like that. I don't know what that little pig face little I fucking like that shit. What's the fucking little bastard? Little fucking test tube baby. He's the offspring of the test they used to run in communist Albania on the poor people. He's one of those fucking test tubes that went wrong.
You know, he reminds me of Danny DeVito in Twins.
Fucking guy. Get the fuck with that fucking guy, little fucking jerk off. That's what you know. What he should shave his fucking bro. I'm telling you that I swear you don't understand what that fucking bro. When that guy did that, I was like, really? I was like, this little cocksucker motherfucker.
All right, guys. I'm
I wish
bringing
I had
out.
those machines where you could teleport
Hey,
right in front of someone.
Tommy Stiggs, thank you so much for being here.
Tom,
Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
And make
Take
sure
care,
you go to his
Rick.
show,
Take care,
people.
Tommy.
Take care.
Take care.
Dan,
how are you guys with him? Are you guys cool with that kid? With the Jeff?
with who?
No.
With who?
No, yeah, good. He's a little fucking jerk off anyway. Good for him. He's a little fucking jerk off he is. A Pennsylvania little jerk off.
Oh, no. See, I used to be good with him. And then what he did is one day we did a show and he put a show up going against our show, saying that we didn't know what we were talking about, basically, out of the blue. Jeff did that.
You know what?
me and
When
you.
FBS put his dick in his mouth, he probably made him promise. You know, yeah, I'll bash him for you. Just slap me in the face with it, FBS. You know, little fucking jerk off. You ever see that kid's hair? He literally looks like he's got a toupee made of pubic hair on top of a big face. That kid's literally communist test tube baby material, bro. I'm telling you. Literally, bro.
Hey, Renee, no excuse. You should have been here, man. Okay? I don't want to hear that you didn't get that. Shame on you, Renee.
Danny boy,
Okay.
how's Florida going over there? How's that
It's good,
sun
man.
shining, my man?
Yeah,
That's
it's been
beautiful.
raining a lot, but it's beautiful down here, man. Really is.
What's the weather like today? Is it nice? Did the humidity slow down a little bit, Danny?
No, today was high humidity. It rained a little while ago, but I mean, you know what? It's easy to live down here. It's cheap. It's fucking. I don't care about the rain. You know.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's like you're fucking, you know, you're outside. You know what I mean? Inside.
Yeah.
Okay, backseat Jimmy giving Mikey back rubs, listening to Luther Vandross and behind us. Jimmy's words, not mine. He did say that. They were.
Yeah, he sure did.
It was a
And-
Luther
and-
Vandross.
Don't you can rest assured he tried to slip a finger up his ass too. You can rest assured.
You know what's crazy too? If you watch Jimmy's thing in the beginning, he was talking so good about scars. Then
Oh, yeah.
one day, my boy tells me he started bashing him.
Yep.
He started bashing
Yeah.
him one day too, which was real
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
Like, bro, like that shows what kind of switch side, and
Yeah.
you know what
Exactly.
I'm saying, bro? That's
Sean
not-
says, I did. Mikey Scars confirmed that Jimmy rubbed him down. He said he really worked his traps. Jimmy's going to go, my boys, they're attacking me, my boys.
I didn't rub him down. I fist fucked him.
If my boy was alive, they would never have the balls to talk to me like this.
Yeah.
Well, he's not. He's
Yeah.
not, and you're an Avenger him. Instead, you turned rat, my man.
Yeah.
Fuck out of here with that guy too, bro. Hi guys.
Ronnie Brasco, all those guys he put away, all
Hey,
that damage. He
guys.
worked.
That's what you
Yeah.
hear from me. Hey
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah.
Like fucking sitting on a fucking dildo. Hey guys.
Exactly.
The fuck out of here, bro. How the
Craig,
fuck those guys?
okay, let's
hang
get
and
one
let him
back.
next to them?
Sonny
Blows
Black
my
was
mind.
straight badass. Got shot, sat up and tell him to do it right this time. Don't know too many, but he did say when Sonny Black did get shot, that's what
Yo,
exactly
even
what happened.
Lefty walked in. You know, Lefty.
Yeah.
Okay, let's. Danny, do you remember Willie the Weeper from Homestretch and Joey Gorilla?
Yeah. I knew Willie the Weeper. I didn't know Joey Gorilla that well, but I did know Joey. My uncle used to hang out in that bar.
Okay, I think Sammy regrets what he did. Oh, give me a break. Sammy regrets what he did. Billy, you didn't just say that, did you? His former life means everything to him, and now his legacy is forever. No, it's not destroyed. Because look what he's done. He's going to be known as the guy that went on YouTube and was very successful. All the people that think bad things about Sammy are going to be like him, dead soon.
It's amazing how that guy still generates money. That's like amazing to me
Yep.
too. That
Yep.
blows my mind.
Absolutely.
Monk Eastman says Mikey Scars ratted on my friend and Scar's best friend Louis Black. Scars, right? People don't realize that Mikey Scars ratted out a lot of people, right, Danny?
I think 80 people.
Yeah, wasn't he like one of the
80?
biggest? Yeah, one of the biggest rats ever. He put a lot of
Yeah.
people away. A lot of.
Well, he had the
know-
most success. Yeah, he had one. Yeah.
He was believable.
Yeah, but
I mean,
I still got to put Messino and I got to put John Gotti Jr. Because nobody to this day knows what that guy said in that room when talking to the feds. John Gotti Jr. Nobody knows to this day, not for none.
Well, I'm
that's-
sorry. I look at it this way. You and I look different. Think different on it. That man was in prison being tortured by the government for years. But
No,
obviously-
not
everybody
not
has
John
different
Gotti. I'm
opinions.
saying the son. But
Yeah.
you know what, too? There's two people I can understand also. Michael Francis and John Gotti Jr., because they both had those things fall into their lap when they both weren't ready for it. That's one
Well,
thing,
John-
too. Like,
John
I
Gotti
don't,
Jr.
I don't
John
say
Gotti
stuff
admits
to hate
that.
on someone. But, you
Well,
know, you
Jr.
got to look
admits
at it,
that.
too. You know, John Gotti Jr., that shit fell in his lap. He didn't ask for all that stuff. He didn't ask,
No.
you know, his father was trying to conserve what was there because he knew what was coming. And, you know, who do you trust more than you know, your offspring? I get it. So listen, same thing as the Francis, Michael. You know, I saw a thing where Mike said he got indicted 4 times by the time he was 23, bro. That's no fucking joke. To get indicted 4 fucking times by the time you're 23, Yo, that's
Well,
no
look at
fucking
it.
joke,
But
bro.
think about what happened to Junior. Junior was literally being held in solitary confinement for years, like almost what, 10 years? And he kept beating the cases. You know, when you beat the government, that's when the government comes after you the hardest.
You know, that's why if you ever watch the first movie, what's the old man tell John Gotti? Learn to duck. Learn to duck. If you ever watch the first movie, you get it? I forgot who that old guy is, but he tells him, learn to duck.
And you know what
I mean?
And I could tell both
Unfortunately, the son couldn't duck because he was so, like I said, I think it was damaging because nobody knows. So I can only imagine. But when it comes to Francis and him, I personally think it fell into their lap when they were not ready. They were not ready. The truth is, I think the Gambinos
but Dan,
didn't
is
want to be
anybody
folks.
Dan, listen, a year and a half ago I came into this, and I never really gave thought in my mind about what happens to these gangsters, how they all wind up in prison or dead. I never really thought about it because I wasn't in this genre. I was just a guy that watched gangsters on TV. And the more I learn about these gangsters and the time they do and the horrible shit that happens to them, who the hell would choose that life?
Yeah.
You know, because you know the ending of that life. There is no pretty ending. You know, and that's what it comes down to. But now there's a way out for a lot of these guys. They can become rats and have a pretty ending.
Listen, bro, most of these kids are out here ratting right now, not even getting arrested, bro. You know, just because we know, let's say there's 100 rats we know of. What do you think? There's not 200 more that got a button that people don't know about?
And Danny, I want to mention this. Danny, I seen a show.
Associates.
Danny, I seen a show the other day where these guys that run dope, they run coke and stuff on the highways all across the country. And they know when they get caught, if they get caught with 10 pounds, let's say, they know all they got to do is tell the state trooper, I'm willing to work with you guys if you let me go. So even those guys being pulled over on the highway now, they rat right away, and they wind up getting 5 years instead of life.
That's why a lot of smart criminals do criminal shit like overseas. You understand? Overseas, in certain countries like Europe, the rules are totally different. Over here, you get caught with, let's say, 2-3 kilos, you could do 25, 30 years here, no problem. You understand? Then there's other countries where you get caught with 100, you'll do 5-6 years.
Unless you get caught in Russia.
Yeah, Russia, yeah. My first cousin, my dad's sister's kid, he just got caught 3 years ago. It was all over YouTube, I think, too, and all that stuff. My cousin Mikey, he got caught with 600 keys of blow from Costa Rica on a private jet in Basel, Switzerland. Then when he didn't talk, now they're hitting him with 2 bodies out in Paris, France. And he got taken from Basel, Switzerland. Now he's in Croatia because the Croatian people put out the first arrest warrant. And since he was doing this time, they saw now they're going to hit him for 2 bodies in France. So even after the 3-4 years more he's got left in Croatia, or 6 years tops, as soon as he gets out of jail, there's a good chance that France is going to wait to pick him up and take him over there now for 2 bodies. You get it? That's the way Europe plays. Europe
I want to read
is a
this real
different
quick
ballgame.
from Noville. I have a good friend who was one of the carpenters in the window case. They tried to get him to flip. He told the DA to go F himself, and that doing time is a good way to get a break from his kids. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, man. Europe is a different game, you know. And it's business over there, bro. You know what I mean? It's business. That's it. You know, like I always usually go overseas, usually once, twice, you know, every year, every other year. And I've just seen how it is, you know, it's a different ball game over there. Like honestly, in Italy, most crews, they have Albanians in them. Like a lot of crews have a lot of Albanians. Like, you know, Albania is right across the water from Italy. You know, they have a body, we have a body. You know what I mean? Everything is, it's all one thing over there. You know what I mean, bro? It's
Hey,
like I
Lee,
said,
I don't mean to cut you off, Dan. The guy Dean wants to come on.
Oh, Dean wants to come on. Dean, I'm going to drop you the invite right now. Hey, Dan, I'm going to let you go, okay?
all right,
ahead,
my
go
brother.
ahead,
Listen,
Dan,
guys,
go ahead.
be good.
Continue.
God bless. Stay safe.
You're welcome back anytime, my man.
All right, Dan.
FBS,
Take
go
care,
F yourself. Jeff Nadeau, you look like a pig face with pubic hair for a fucking wig, you jerk off. All right, now I'm good. Take it easy, guys. Peace.
Hey, Dean, I'm going to drop that right now. Please jump on. Okay, Dean has a show. I want him to come on and tell you about his show. And once again, people, while I'm here, if you want to donate something, feel free to. I haven't checked my Cash Apps yet. I know I got a few of them. Thank you. But if you want to donate something to the show, feel free before we take off. We've been on for an hour and 45 minutes. So, Danny, we stayed on a little bit longer today, and I guess it's good for Dean if he wants to jump on.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yep. So how did you see that, Danny, that he...
I was going through the chat and I saw it.
Angel Gotti's here. Angel, I said a prayer for her daughter had an operation today, and let's all hope that everything went good with her, Angel, just so you know. We are always thinking about you.
And
Okay,
Chuck.
Dean, grab that link, jump on. Okay, let's see. Casso probably caused more guys to flip than anyone else in the mob with his actions. That's a good point, Danny, ain't it?
Well, you know, Casso was he was a scared little man. He was tough with a crew because when he got in prison, there was a guy that beat the living shit out of him. So he wasn't as tough as everybody thought he was with his hands.
Hey, Dean, I don't know if you're having trouble with that link. I'll give you a couple more minutes. I'm going to send it one more time if you want to come on. But, Dean, you are an Angel show, so I'm pretty sure you know how to grab that link. But it's down there one more time. Well, we've been consistently at 290 to over 300 people. Thank you all so much. We really appreciate how many people come in here and enjoy this show. Okay, let's see. We Westies, there are people in this chat right now who were from the paramilitaries of Northern Ireland during the Troubles. I'm sure there are, man. Jackie Bond says, I worked with Henry Borelli's brother or cousin and worked with an absolute nut, so I'm sure. Dean, I'll be with you. Sean, I'm bringing Dean on right now. You're welcome anytime, but I got to bring him on and give him.
Right.
But thank you so much, my man. Come
What's
on
up,
next
Sean?
show.
Hey, how are you?
Okay.
All right, pal.
All right.
Take care, my man.
Later.
Oh,
Dean, how you doing?
how's it going?
Well, Dean, why don't you tell people exactly what your show is about? And people, please put up his link. And if you haven't subbed to his channel, please do so. You can go to the information underneath here. His links there. And Claudio, if you want to, I'm not letting anybody else in right now, people.
Well, really, this thing I'm doing is just an evolving thing. I'm brand new to it, and my initial thing was to just because I'm unfamiliar with social media, as you know, I was just doing a few YouTube videos to try to sell, the novels. I wrote a couple of books in prison, and I wanted to get some sales, and it was really more like a marketing strategy. And one thing led to another. I got interviewed by MRE, or he actually promoted my through a friend. He promoted my book. I went on there, and then that led to me being interviewed by Angel, and here I am talking to you. It's all brand new. So really, I can't even say I have a particular show, but I'm starting to lean towards where, because I'm trying to avoid getting myself caught up in, you can get caught up in a whole.
Don't do it. Don't do it, my man.
Right, guys.
Yeah, don't do it. Just ignore it.
Put on that road, but
We won't even put you on that spot. I want to ask you something. So tell people exactly how much time you spent in prison.
a little over 36 years in total, but it was 3 sentences. Now people look at me, I don't even look old enough to have done that kind of time, but I went in, I was waved out as a juvenile. When I was a kid, I kept escaping from the juvenile, what they call the training school down here. And I started graduating from one crime to another. I ended up shooting a guy trying to steal a bank deposit bag, among a couple other robberies. And they waved me out. They call it waved out on. Maybe somewhere else they got different terminology for it. Meaning they sent me to the state pen at 16. And I went right into population, and in prison in the 80s, as you know, was much different in the country. I went from bad to worse. And in the prison system down here is a little different because it's so small. It's very different from the larger penitentiaries in the big states. It was more controlled by mob guys, for a lack of a better term, just to be blunt about it. And so it wasn't unusual for street kids to rub shoulders with those guys down here in the can. And so I would never paint myself as somebody, but I did rub shoulders with those guys. And
Are you talking about the patriarch family?
yeah, guys that
Okay.
are, yes. And just, it's not an uncommon thing for a street kid to rub. I mean, once they, and when you're in the can, guys can, based on how you conduct yourself, and that's a good place to scout for fucking young up and coming guys, so to speak. Now, I didn't even mean to go down that road. I was just,
Oh, that's fine.
the distinction in Rhode Island compared to other states where the gangs and all that shit, Aryan Nation and all those other groups run those prisons. Down here in those days, in the 80s, it was mob controlled, more or less. They had the most influence. And that was like a big culture down here because it's so small. I'm sure you're familiar with the history down here with that. But so I caught 10 years when I was 16 to serve, a bunch suspended. I was paroled, and like I told you, I went from bad to worse. I graduated from one crime to the next, and then I got into the bank robbing game. I think I lasted 6 months after my first sentence, and went back for 10 years on a bank.
And what year was that you went back, that you robbed the bank? Like
That was 1992.
So you're talking about during the time when bank robberies were a big thing up
They
in
were-
that,
yeah,
up
they
in that area, especially up in that
That's
Rhode
right.
Island, Massachusetts, and
Yeah.
those areas.
Those fucking guys out in Southie, they hold a record per capita for that. And down in Rhode Island, you'll serve a lot of time with those mask guys because they're always the interstate compact. They send guys back and forth. So there's a lot of influences on a young kid in the can if that's the road. When they're in prison, crime becomes like fucking the curriculum. The prison's the school and the curriculum is crime when you're in prison. If you want that, and I kind of wanted that. When you're a kid, you get influenced by it. You feel like a somebody. And I got back out. I didn't learn a goddamn thing after 10 years about how to rob banks and armored cars. And so I got out. I went right at it. I lasted under a year. And I just got out about 16 months ago after doing 18 straight. But like everywhere else, the prison system changed. Once upon a time, there's a difference. I heard a guy say it on these different shows, and there's a huge difference between a convict and an inmate. I think I value myself as a hardened con at one point.
And you know what? I'm not trying to cut you off there, but I want to do an actual interview with you, a full one.
Right.
So there we'll stop.
All right.
Because your story is quite an interesting one. I watched some of your stuff, and I don't think we're not going to be on much longer. So I don't, I wanted to give the basic and the general stuff. So basically, you were in prison for over 30 years.
Yeah.
You did 3 major stints.
That's right.
Okay. And now you're out. You're married. You have a child.
Yeah, 7-month-old infant.
Now you said something to me that really made me think the other day. You said to me that if you weren't out and if you didn't have that child and something to live for, you'd probably be back in prison. And it's funny you said that because Danny right here, same thing. He had a son and it changed his life. So what would you say to that?
Well, I remember this old wise guy told me years ago, he said, we were talking about, guys that are so deep where crime is so embedded in you that, how do you get out of it? He goes, the thing with you is just, you're very loyal. You find a woman that loves you and you love her back, or you have a child, your love for that child, it might be not the correct route to take for change, because I didn't have a fucking big epiphany. I didn't find God and none of that stuff. That's not what made me change. I just, common sense, made me want to veer in that direction of change. And it's things that start to happen along the way that strengthen my ability to change. And my wife and kid is probably the strongest aspect of that. And like you said, you're so loyal, you won't want to break that loyalty or that bond to them. And that's what'll keep you on the right track. And I'll be goddamn if he wasn't right. He said that to me like 25 years ago. Now I get what he means.
Now, and Danny's done a lot of state time like you have. And Danny, is there any questions you want to ask him about state time, being that you guys understand it?
No, it's, when I went to prison in the 80s, it was a convict's jail. The hacks had nothing to do with it. We ran everything from classification to everything. So, but, I did 18 and a half years, and, you become institutionalized. When you get out, you want to go back because you don't know, there's nothing out here. You know what I mean? What are you going to do? Get in trouble. You feel more comfortable inside than you do out here. But in my case, I had a son, and that made me have a completely different outlook on what I was going to do, with my life.
I'll tell you something, Danny. I started writing in prison, and that took me down a path of pursuing an education. And when I came across the word institutionalized and fucking criminal sociopath, I didn't like that I fucking could open that book and everything they were talking about fucking, was me, right? And I was
Absolutely.
The general consensus is a guy like that can't change. And I always like a fucking challenge, right? So all these things culminated into me wanting to change too. But so what I did, I never got that institutionalized feeling. No, I'm sure I must have endured institutionalism. But what I did was I started going to school, and when you go to school, or if you have people on the street, I continuously called people out in the world. I always tried to keep a part of me out in the world to keep a feel for a lot of guys who just play cards and play sports and forget about the world. I think that's a big fucking mistake. That's when you really get institutionalized. I always tried to keep a part of me out in the world as much as I can. And I got into a program where they talk to high school kids and college kids, like a Scared Straight, but a watered down Scared Straight. And at one point, they started a dog training program. I got involved in that. I deliberately did all these programs to get civilized as I could in preparation for when I got out. So when I got out, it fucked a lot of people up that I wasn't all fucked up. Like, don't get me wrong. I got a lot of issues I deal with, but I have the tools and the ability to deal with it when I see it. There's a lot of anger and a lot of that shit, but I just prepared myself as much as I could. So this time when I got out, it wasn't like the other times where crime was all I knew. This time I was like prepared to deal with it. So I gave myself a chance, is what you could say. So it wasn't as bad as some people might think it could have been for me. You know what I mean?
Well, you look damn good for a man in his mid-50s, dude.
Well, prison will preserve you if you don't let it do you. Some guys will put you in, but it has its impact. I feel like an old man some days inside, I gotta tell you.
Yeah.
But,
well, listen, people, Dean's channel's up here, and it's called The Right Side Up with Dean Wilkinson. And please go there and subscribe, people. We got 300 people in here right now, a little bit under that. So, guys, please go in there. Let's get hit. How many subs do you have right now when you started the show?
I'm at about 418. My wife tells me. My manager, my wife Carol.
But let's get Dean up to 500. Everybody, do me a favor. He's a gentleman. I want to see everybody please sub to his channel. He's an interesting guy, and I'm sure you'd find him interesting as well. And it's a pleasure for me to even talk to you, Dean. I appreciate it.
And Dean, the one thing you have is you have a great voice, and the way you present yourself. That's very important in this. And your story is important because you did so much time in prison. And one thing I'm learning here too, I used to think about these big sentences and say, oh, these guys are in jail for 25 years. But the 25 years go by fast, don't they?
It does. It does. Give you the simple answer. Yeah. Well, it depends on how you do your time. Some guys brood a lot and they're always depressed. If I feel that depression coming on, I'll fucking go and do something. I just fought every little battle along the way that I know the shit that can drag you down. I mean, but to be honest, for the first 25 years, I was in trouble. I spent a lot of time in a high security, which is a supermax, and a lot of seg time. I was involved in a lot of trafficking, assault on COs. I've been on both ends of the knife. I went through it. But then, like Danny was more or less saying, that he knows that the prison system changed and soft, and especially down here. And that allowed me, I actually capitalized on the change to pursue education stuff, where in the 80s, there was no time for that. I was too caught up in so much bullshit. And plus, I was older. You start to age out of it a little, you know?
And when you started going for education and stuff, did you find that it made time go quicker? Getting up every day to something to look forward to?
Yeah, because he had a purpose. He had a purpose, you know.
I'm going to say that. You feel worthy of purpose, because really, prison will strip you of your identity. And I got to remember, I went in as a kid. I never really lived a life. And so, you know, I was fucking, you know, there's no emotional growth either. Emotional intelligence is very important. You don't get to exercise your emotions. So I worked on a lot of stuff, but yeah, there's no, you feel worthy, or you feel what a term he just used. You have a purpose. And I don't know, it's just, you know, it's magnified in there when you're going to school and you really start to, and I was, even when I was in the process of change, I was still fucking up. I was going back to high security, starting over. The one thing I always had, though, is writing. And writing, they say it's cathartic, and I know why now. It's very therapeutic. I just kept writing my ass off while everyone was screaming and hollering and all this shit was going on, or watching sports even. I was busy fucking trying to put a book together. I just gave myself something to do, and I sunk my teeth into it, you know?
Scott H. wants to know if you know Bobby Luisi.
I know that name. I know
Okay.
that Luisi. Yeah, he did some time. But I can't picture the face. I remember that.
Let me ask you a question. What do you think about these guys that, and be honest, you know, your answer doesn't mean one thing, you know, we're not going to judge you one way or another. What do you think about these guys that rat to avoid time?
No, I can't get on board with that. That's not a belief system I have. Now, the thing about me is I do understand where someone who's never really been in a life can probably come to terms with what they're doing. Me, I can't, because that's how I got pinched. I would have never took a fucking pinch if it wasn't for people fucking ratting on me. So I can't. Do I go on a fucking pulpit and scream and holler about the rats? Nah, I find it doesn't do you much good. I try to keep my hatred to a fucking minimum, because that'll fuck you up. But long answer short, you want to get into that life, man. You're gonna accept the consequences. You know, put another guy in the can to save yourself. I can't get on board with it, but I wouldn't get on my fucking video and necessarily fucking preach about it, because not too many fucking people are listening anymore anyway. People don't really give a fuck. But to answer your question, I think it's wrong for a guy to do it. I think if you accept that life, man, you should, you know, deal with the consequences.
Okay. Well, Dean, I'm going to let you go. I appreciate you coming in here. I'll give you a call. We'll set something up.
I really appreciate
I really do want to now, because you sound very interesting stuff. I'd really like to discuss it because it's just stuff that needs to be heard, people. So people, Claudio Perry, thank you so much for putting Dean up continuously,
Yeah.
Claudio.
By the way.
Claudio's looking out for you, man.
Oh yeah, and my wife has been on all over it, reminding me to pay attention to audio. So thank you very much, all of you, really. So
Go sub to his show. We're going to give him an
Thanks,
interview
Dean. Thanks for
shortly.
coming on, pal. It was a pleasure meeting
You
you.
take and tell your wife I said hi, okay?
you got it. She said hello.
Okay. And
Take
bless
care.
your child.
All right,
Take
thank
care,
you.
my man.
All right, take care.
Okay, so I listen, Danny. I can go with that guy and start a new show over, but we've been on for 2 hours because I love stuff like that, interesting stuff. People that you can't imagine people with over 30 years in prison is. Can you, Danny? When you really think about it, it's like that's at least half your life, or just about half your life in prison.
Yep, absolutely.
It's unbelievable when you think about it. And people, I'm going to shut the show down. We've been on for over 2 hours. I just want to thank you. And the show's been all over the place. We had Dean come on, which is great. I'm glad that he came on. Please go sub to his channel if you haven't. Please hit the like button here. And we're going to be on maybe Thursday or Friday, but we'll be on again. I'm not going to give you an exact day. We'll be dropping videos. We're going to stay very active. But thank you for everybody being here. And Danny, if you want to say goodbye to them, go for it.
I appreciate everybody subbing in and listening to our show. And if you haven't sent that $1 for the rat calandra, please do. Anyway, everybody have a nice evening, and thanks.
And people, I couldn't even keep up on I can't even keep up on the chat so far ahead of me. I apologize if I didn't get to your message. It's just impossible, people. Everybody take care. Have a nice one. And hit that like button, please.